Hi there, I'm Maura, and yes, I really bought the lake retreat my sister secretly planned for our whole family, and banned her from ever stepping foot on it again. Sounds harsh? Maybe, but after years of being the invisible one, the one they accidentally left out, this was the last straw. A birthday invite revoked. My daughter mocked. A contract that cut me out. Why would your own family do that? Have you ever felt quietly erased by the people who were supposed to love you loudest? Ever questioned if keeping the peace was just permission for them to keep hurting you? What time are you hearing this? And where in the world are you watching from? I'd love to know. Drop a comment, let's talk. The house was quiet, except for the occasional squeak of sneakers on tile. I poured cereal into mismatched bowls while my kids yawned at the kitchen table. Outside, a fine mist hovered over the driveway, catching the soft Oregon sun in a blur of gold. It should have been an ordinary morning, should have, but something gnawed at the edges. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Hope you're okay with the change of plans. Love you. No context, no punctuation after plans, just wait. It sat in my chest like wet wool. By the time I dropped off the kids, the message still hung in my thoughts like static. I called her on the way home. "Oh, Maura," she answered, syrupy sweet. "There's been a change. We had to cancel the lake trip this year. The budget's tighter than expected. You know how it is." I didn't know how it was, but I knew how she sounded, like someone hiding behind politeness, using vagueness like a shield. "You said this months ago was the big trip, the one the kids talked about every day." I kept my voice even, but my grip on the wheel tightened. "Sweetheart," she sighed, "it's just, with all the extras, flights, meals, cabins, it adds up." Extras. I knew what she meant. Me, my kids. That night I didn't sleep. The silence stretched like smoke, and every time I shut my eyes, I saw my daughter clutching the fishing hat she'd picked out in January, before she knew she wouldn't wear it. 3 days later, I opened Instagram while standing in line at Trader Joe's. There they were. My mother, my sister Celeste, her kids, matching swimsuits, piña coladas, laughing on the deck of a cruise ship. Cruise. My breath caught. I forgot the cart, forgot the ice cream melting in the bottom. My phone slipped and clattered to the floor. People stared. I didn't care. I told the kids that night. There was no good way to spin it. My son asked if we could go later, just us. My daughter didn't say anything. She folded the hat back into the drawer. I told myself to let it go, that it was one trip, one moment. But then it came. An email, forwarded from Natalie, my best friend, who worked in corporate travel. Subject: Family Lake Retreat, final confirmation. From Celeste Hayes. 2. Everyone but me. I stared. I read it twice, then again. The same lake, the same cabin dates. Every family member listed, except me and my kids. My name was nowhere. Celeste had planned a second trip, a luxury one. Immediate family only, the email said. A small resort, all-inclusive, lakeside bonfires and private docks. It was the place my kids had dreamed of. They were never meant to know. I was never meant to know. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the fishing rod we'd bought during spring clearance. My son picked it out. He said he wanted to catch a trout for Grandpa. He never would. My hand moved before I thought. I opened my laptop, clicked the bookmarked page. The resort's website glowed softly. Next to it, a tab for Oregon property law flickered open. Purchase inquiries, legal forms, ownership clauses, I whispered, just loud enough for the universe to hear. Let's play her game, but better. The tea was cold, forgotten. I sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by crumpled school flyers and unopened bills, the only sound the soft tick of the fridge motor and the occasional sigh of wood settling. My laptop glowed faintly in front of me, but I wasn't reading. I was remembering. The way Mom's voice caught before she mentioned budget cuts. The way no one followed up after that awkward text. The way my sister's smile looked in those cruise photos, like nothing and no one had been left behind. I sipped from the chipped mug, bitterness blooming under my tongue. Something didn't line up. It hadn't for a while. Elodie, I called just to break the silence. She patted in, asking for scissors for a school project. I pointed to the junk drawer. A minute later, she reappeared, holding an envelope, dust clinging to the corners. This fell behind. Is it yours? I took it without thinking, flipping it over. My heart stuttered. The cruise company logo, Celeste's name, a full payment receipt, dated 2 months before Mom ever picked up the phone. I blinked. Once. Twice. My fingers went numb. They had planned it long before their little performance, long before their concern. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was premeditated. I pulled my laptop closer and began digging. Months of emails. Birthday invites I never got. Threads where Celeste and Mom used the same strange phrases. Let's keep it simple. Too many logistics. Nuclear unit only. Over and over, they echoed each other like a script rehearsed behind closed doors. My stomach twisted. It was never about money. It was about control. I opened an old thread with Dad. Quiet, reserved Dad. The last message he sent was months ago. Just one line. Let's not make waves this year. Even he was playing along. The ping of a new email snapped me back. From Ivy, my coworker and occasional lunch confidant. Subject, I think this was meant for someone else? Attached was an email thread between Celeste and a lawyer. Subject line, Eloa Retreat, exclusive access contracts. The body of the message was short but searing. Moving forward, please ensure any booking documentation excludes non-nuclear family branches. This avoids unnecessary complications. Non-nuclear. That was me. That was my kids. I clenched my jaw, bile rising with rage that didn't shout. It chilled, a fury so sharp it honed into strategy. I reread the line, then again. My hand moved to the mouse, clicked, opened Google Drive, created a new folder. I typed, Operation Reclaim. My reflection stared back at me from the screen, hair messy, eyes hollow, mouth set in steel. They want legal? I whispered. I'll give them legal. I hadn't slept. My fingers were stiff from typing, my eyes dry from hours of staring at documents, screenshots, and silence. Outside, the sky hung heavy with clouds that refused to cry. Inside, the only sound was the hum of the radiator as I dragged and dropped evidence into a growing digital folder. I titled it, The Undoing. The email about Eloa wasn't just a slap, it was a warning shot. One they expected me to absorb and retreat from. They forgot I work in operations, systems, patterns, loopholes. Freddie called just past 7. Want me to take a peek? He asked casually, like we were discussing fantasy football, not the slow dismantling of my place in the family. I forwarded the legal email to him and went back to cataloging every lie. He called back before I could finish my tea. There's a clause buried near the bottom. You wouldn't have caught it unless you were looking for blood. Read it to me. Access to property and retreat benefits is limited to members listed within the active nuclear trust. External beneficiaries must seek written permission through the board, effective retroactively. I went cold. They buried my name, legally. That's what it looks like. A pause. They want to weaponize legality? I said, voice flat. Seems so. Fine. I'll arm up too. I closed the folder, exhaled through my nose, and reached for my planner. I scribbled in red, meet with property lawyer. Later that afternoon, my phone vibrated with a group text from the family thread I'd been reluctantly left in. Thanks for the lovely dinner last night, Celeste. Happy birthday, Mom. I stared at the screen. Dinner? Birthday? Elodie had spent the night before making a crayon card with hearts and a crooked cake for Grandma. She'd asked 3 times if we were going. I told her I hadn't heard anything. I told her maybe it was next weekend. I told her a lie. My hand trembled as I tapped the photos. Everyone was there. My parents, Celeste's kids, even Uncle Rob, who hadn't shown his face in years. Everyone but us, like we'd never existed. I wasn't just forgotten, I whispered. I was erased. I deleted the thread, then sat, motionless, in front of the fridge. Her card was still hanging there, its tape curling at the edges. It had one word in big purple letters: love. Freddie called again. This time his voice was tight. Maura, I need you to sit down. I'm already sitting. The trust clause. It's worse than we thought. I clenched my hand into a fist. The drawing fluttered slightly in the heater's breath, but I didn't move. Mom, are we still going to Grandma's party today? Elodie's voice snapped the silence like a twig. I blinked up from my coffee, lukewarm now, and realized I had nothing to offer her but lies or heartbreak. I don't know, baby, I said, pulling up my inbox. The email I remembered, the one with pastel balloons and a smiling photo of Mom, was gone. But I remembered forwarding it to Ivy. My fingers flew across the screen until I found it, March 8th. Subject line, finally, an invite. Attached was the screenshot, sent, saved, real, but not anymore. It wasn't an oversight, I whispered. It was extraction. Later that evening, Ivy called. Her voice was tight, careful. Celeste said it was best not to stir anything up. Your mom didn't want conflict at her birthday. So, I'm conflict now. Maura, I tried. It's fine, I cut her off. Elodie had left her card on the table, glitter glued in bold pink letters. Happy birthday, Nana. There were stickers of cats and a drawing of the lake house with everyone inside. Everyone but us. I picked it up, walked to the trash, paused, then dropped it in. I wanted to protect her, I thought, but now she's in the blast zone with me. I wiped my cheeks before she could see. 2 days later, my cousin Jamie texted me a screenshot. Thought you should see this before it disappears. It was from the family group chat. Someone had posted Elodie's lake house drawing, the one from last summer. Her little dream of the retreat, complete with dock and daisies. But the caption above it made my stomach cave in. Looks like a haunted swamp. No wonder Maura's so obsessed. Crying laugh emojis lined the screen like a firing squad. Celeste. I didn't move. The rain tapped gently against the windows as I closed the blinds one by one. The house dimmed until only the fridge light cast shadows across the floor. They could mock me. They had. But Elodie? Number. You can humiliate me. But not her. Never her. I took a notepad from the junk drawer and started writing. Bullet points, names, timelines, assets. There was a crack forming in me, not of collapse but emergence. I opened Zillow, searched. Lakefront properties near Bend, Oregon. The cursor blinked, steady and sharp. If they want to erase me from the picture, I'll redraw the entire damn frame. The post was already at 200 shares by the time I saw it. Elodie's lake house sketch, soft blue pencil lines, tiny daisies dotting the shoreline, her vision of peace, had been ripped from her journal and turned into a punchline. Is this a horror movie set? One comment jeered. Another, Maura's kids got her sense of style, disaster chic. Among the cackling emojis, I spotted the usernames of Celeste's twins. Of course. I clenched the phone. The edges bit into my palm. I warned them. I fucking warned them. I dialed Ivy. She didn't say hello, just sighed. I'm sorry, she said. It was shared in the family group thread first. I think someone screenshot it, probably Jamie's kid. I looked up as Elodie wandered in, clutching her stuffed fox. Mom? Did I mess up my drawing? My throat closed. No, baby, I said, lifting her onto my lap. It's beautiful. Want to draw another? She nodded. We sat there sketching in silence. But inside me, something screamed. This wasn't teasing. It wasn't just bad taste or mean cousins. It was calculated. A slow public unraveling. And they were using my child to do it. They wanted war. Fine. The next morning, as I stepped into a staff meeting Zoom, my phone buzzed. A message from Paul, the resort caretaker. Maura, I thought this was a wedding shoot at first, but you need to see this. Attached, a photo. Celeste, her husband, their kids, all in coordinated white, standing on the dock of my property, grinning like they owned it, arms around each other, champagne flutes. The fence had been locked. They jumped it. No keys, no permission, just entitlement. I didn't even pause before forwarding the photo to my attorney. Send the trespass warning, I wrote. Today. Then I opened Instagram. My hands didn't tremble. I wrote the caption slowly, deliberately. Some boundaries must be enforced. This place is mine, and so is my peace. I didn't name them, didn't need to. The comments came fast. Finally, someone setting limits. Why is she acting like she owns the lake? Family's messy. Chill out, Maura. Let them talk. Let them pick sides. Let them wonder how cold I could get. I closed the screen and sat back in my chair. The silence inside me didn't feel hollow this time. It felt clean. Let them call me ice, I whispered. Fire comes next. That night, after I'd tucked Elodie in, my phone lit up. Blocked number. You think you've won? Watch what happens next. I stared at the words. My thumb hovered over the delete icon, then moved to lock the screen instead. I walked out onto the deck, arms crossed, wind licking at my sleeves. They're not done. But neither am I. My phone started vibrating before sunrise. First Ivy, then unknown numbers, then the news alert. The headline read, Estranged Sister Sparks Legal Firestorm. Children Caught in Crossfire. Below it, surveillance footage played on loop. Celeste's family slipping past the back gate at the lake resort, laughing, arms full of picnic baskets. A slow zoom captured the fence they'd scaled, but the overlay read, Heated feud turns legal. They broke in. But I was the monster? Fine, let's play. The footage had been edited, conveniently missing the timestamp and audio. No proof they'd been warned, no mention of prior trespass notices, just silent images cut to spin pity their way. Ivy called again. Maura, it's bad. They've already pitched this to 3 morning shows. One anchor said you seem vindictive. Vindictive, I repeated. The word rolled bitterly in my mouth. I'm serious. If you don't counter this, their version sticks. I stared at the screen. Elodie's drawing hung behind me, taped to the bookshelf. In her world, the lake was still magic. I wouldn't let them rewrite that. I opened a new document and typed the headline first. My side. Then I called Vanessa Griggs, my old PR contact from the women's nonprofit I'd worked with years ago. She didn't hesitate. What you need is a narrative reset. Let them keep the noise. We'll give people clarity. 2 days later, the video went live. Just me, walking the dock at sunset. No filters, no scripts. I spoke clearly, slowly. My name is Maura Weller. I own this lake property, not as revenge, not for status, but for peace. My daughter imagined this place long before we could afford it. She believed in it, and I believed in her. I paused, letting the camera shift to the drawing, then the water beyond. Recently, members of my extended family entered without permission. When asked to leave, they used media to paint me as cruel. So I'm here to say, I'm not perfect, but I am protective of my child, of our boundaries, and of the truth. The video ended with a silent shot of Elodie's sketch taped on my fridge. It spread quickly. Local media picked it up. Comments turned, some still skeptical, but others calling out the spin. She handled that with more class than I ever could, one woman wrote. I'd want that mom in my corner, said another. For the first time, I felt the tide shift. Not completely, but I wasn't drowning anymore. That night, just as I was about to shut my laptop, a new email pinged into my inbox. No subject, no name. You've only just begun, sister. There's more you don't know. I stared at the screen. My heartbeat didn't race. My fingers didn't shake. Not fear, just focus. I was ready now. The message came at 11:42 p.m., just as I was about to shut my laptop. The subject line was blank. The email address was unfamiliar, but the signature chilled me. I'm the producer Celeste hired. I can't do this anymore. Attached was a voice memo. I clicked play. Celeste's voice, unmistakably hers, filtered through the speakers, laughing as she instructed, Make sure the lighting's just right for the crying shot. We want sympathetic, not pathetic. Another voice chimed in, probably the producer. And the little boy? Celeste responded, We'll blur his face, makes it look less rehearsed. The clip ended. I sat back in my chair, air thick around me. The lie wasn't just personal anymore, it was televised. I forwarded the file to Ivy. She called within minutes, breathless. Maura, this is your moment. Use it wisely. But I couldn't hit upload yet. There was someone I needed to hear from, someone who, through all of this, had said nothing. The next morning, a letter arrived in the mailbox. My name was written in sharp, familiar strokes. Dad. The last letter I got from him was on my wedding day, a single sentence and a check. This one was longer. Pages, actually. Pages of apologies wrapped in excuses. He wrote that Mom hadn't stopped crying since the videos began, that this feud was tearing the family in two, that maybe I could end it. I read it 3 times. I didn't cry. 16 years ago, I stood in their living room while Celeste screamed at me for stealing attention at her graduation dinner. He sat silently on the couch, flipping through a catalog. When I left, no one followed me out. Now he wanted peace, I wrote back, but never sent it. You were quiet when I needed a voice. I found my own. You don't get to silence it now. Instead, I turned on the camera. No filters, no curated backgrounds, just my words. This is not drama. This is defense. I've been erased, blamed, and now framed. My daughter's drawings were mocked, our memories twisted, contracts were drawn, press manipulated. My sister knew exactly what she was doing. I played the voice memo in full. Then I held up the original contract with the exclusion clause. This isn't about a vacation. This is about power, legacy, and a woman who finally stopped playing small. The video exploded. Millions of views, talk shows, podcasts, and comments. So many comments. Some praised the strength. Some called me vindictive. One just said, "Damn. I hope my daughter grows up with that kind of backbone." I closed the laptop with a shaky breath. Then I saw the email. Subject, defamation notice. It was from Celeste's legal team. Of course. I leaned back in the chair, eyes burning but dry. Letter. I'm done hiding. Let's bring it all into the light. Fog clung to the lake like a secret. I walked the worn gravel path alone, the damp air sharp in my lungs. Somewhere behind me, Elodie slept unaware. Ahead, the horizon blurred between water and sky. I hadn't replied to Dad's letter. Not because I didn't have words, but because nothing I said would change who he'd chosen to be all those years, or who my mother had quietly been. The silence between us now was just an echo of the ones they let grow back then. I stopped at the dock's edge, squinting through the mist, and heard her voice again, not in warmth, but in warning. Don't cause trouble, just keep quiet. That whisper had followed me through childhood like a leash. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Ivy. She finally talked, she said. I blinked. Who? The family trust lawyer. I pushed. She caved. There was a pause, then. Your mother was in the room when Celeste drafted the exclusion clause. She wasn't crying over losing you. She was crying over possibly losing the inheritance if your story went viral. My grip tightened. She helped them rewrite the rules, Ivy added, her voice low. She lobbied to get your name removed. There it was, the last thread. The tiny sliver of hope I hadn't let go of. The belief that maybe, beneath the quiet compliance, there had been care. Gone. I didn't hang up. I just stopped talking. Ivy, knowing me by now, let the silence sit. Later that day, a headline broke across every feed I followed. Exclusive. Whistleblower exposes family fraud behind viral lake feud. The expose was thorough. Too thorough for Celeste to spin. The producer's emails, the contract screenshots, the recording of Celeste directing authentic scenes, every layer peeled away. They quoted my videos, labeled me as resilient, honest, a woman who fought to protect her child, not punish a family. Then the messages started coming. A retired teacher who'd seen Elodie's drawing in the article. Your daughter's vision is beautiful. Don't let anyone tell her otherwise. A single dad from Spokane. What you did, standing up publicly like that. I hope my kid sees that kind of bravery in me one day. An Oregon Women's Network offered to partner on retreats for mother-daughter weekends at the lake. The same lake Celeste once said wasn't suitable for family memories. And yet, I didn't feel triumphant. Just released. Like an invisible hand unclenched around my throat. That night, I walked back to the main lodge to lock up. On the wall hung a photo. Me at 9, leaning against my mother's arm, forced smile under a too-tight braid. I turned it face down. She cried for money. I cried for her. The lodge was still. For once, silence didn't feel like absence. It felt earned. Outside, the leaves had turned a rusted gold, brushing the air with memory as volunteers bustled in the background, setting out folding chairs and warm cider. In a few hours, the first workshop would begin. Single mothers and their kids gathering in the space where I once stood, hollowed out by betrayal. A reporter from the local station leaned over the welcome table. "Any plans to reopen this place for family retreats?" I gave a small smile and said nothing. Later, alone in my office, I opened the envelope again. No return address. Just the kind of paper that smelled like dust and regret. It was from Rachel, my cousin. Celeste had torn into her once for wearing a black dress to a Christmas brunch. I hadn't seen her since. Her letter was brief. "You reminded me I wasn't crazy either. Thank you for being louder than I ever could be." No demand. No request for reconnection. Just a bridge she built and left behind without asking me to cross it. I pinned it inside my journal, between pages filled with bruised thoughts and hard-won truths. That letter meant more than she'd ever know. Around noon, Elodie and I walked the path down to the lake. A mural stretched along the boathouse wall, painted in streaks of blue and magenta by the girls from yesterday's art session. It shimmered with birds, roots, and a little cabin glowing in the distance. Elodie ran her fingers along a painted sun. "Mom," she asked, "do you think you'll ever talk to Grandma again?" I didn't answer right away. We kept walking. The gravel crunched. The water mirrored the sky. "Maybe one day," I said finally. "But not because she deserves it. Only if I need it." Elodie nodded, then leaned against me. We sat down by the shore. No words, no weight, just the steady breath of the lake. The fight was over, but the grief lingered like steam after rain. Not loud, just present. Back in the lodge, I passed an old photo tucked behind a bookshelf. Me, age 5, on her lap. I had pigtails and a paper crown. She was smiling, but not at me, at the camera. I turned the frame over, slowly, and set it face down. She cried for money. I cried for her. The door behind me is closed, but I've left a window open, just in case the wind changes. I've learned that healing doesn't always come with reconciliation. Sometimes peace arrives when you stop waiting for an apology and start building something better, on your own terms. I used to think family was defined by blood, but now I know. It's defined by respect, by truth, and by the courage to draw your own boundaries when others won't. To anyone listening who's ever felt silenced, excluded, or underestimated, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not too much. You're exactly enough, and you get to choose what stays in your life and what ends. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you love in order to love yourself better? What did that teach you? Share your story in the comments. Your voice might be the light someone else needs today. If this video moved you or made you reflect, drop a 1 in the comments or let me know where you're watching from. And if it didn't resonate, I'd still love to hear your thoughts. Tell me why and what you took away. And hey, if you want more stories that speak to the heart, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Let's keep growing, healing, and speaking truth together.